couple of years ago, I found myself buckling under with the stresses of the 21st century. A lot of bad things had happened in that decade, and I needed some kind of release. So I came up with this idea that one Sunday a month, I'll go into my recording studio and I will play all the instruments and sing all the parts to a song from the 1980s, which I had been missing desperately. It had to be a song that had an emotional thread between then and now, still pulling me back and forth. I wanted it to sound exactly like the radio. I want to play all the instruments. I want to sing all the parts. I wanted to do all of the recording, and I wanted to do all of the filming and editing myself. And here it is. This is my Sunday Jam, and this is a behind the scenes look. Welcome to my behind the scenes of my Sunday Jam project. I've wanted to do this for a while now. Sort of take you through step by step how does one person play all the instruments and sing all the parts and mix the song and edit the song and film the song. It's a lot. So it all starts today on September 1st. My goal is to film and record this on September 19th, which is a Sunday, and then have you guys watching it on Facebook the following Sunday on the 26th. But it all starts today on September 1st, 3 weeks of preparation, figuring out parts, figuring out sounds. The first day of the project is always the only day that you'll see me clean shaven. The rest of the month is all man style. I've actually had a couple of bosses at different day jobs that didn't believe I actually could do this. I think they pictured me with a kick drum on my back and cymbals between my knees and a trumpet in my mouth or something, but you don't actually do it all at once. You do it a little bit at a time. So stick with me. I'm going to take you through the next 3 weeks, and then we're going to do the actual recording day, and then I will show you a little bit how I mix it and how I edit it after it's all done. All right, so here we are on day one. First thing I do is I go to musicnotes.com and I buy and download a PDF of the sheet music. I spend so much time figuring out parts and sounds and everything else that it's kind of nice to just start the song with someone else showing you the chords and the melody. Keep in mind that sheet music is only ever 90% accurate. For instance, I downloaded the Buggles' Video Killed the Radio Star last month, and it was in the key of D. And the recording is actually in the key of D flat. I think they put it in the key of D just to simplify it, because D flat is hard to read. But I had to transpose everything in my head down a half step the entire time, which was very frustrating. For example, in this song, once you hit the pre-chorus, it goes to an F sharp minor, which is supposed to be the 3 chord in the key of D. And they want you to play an E major chord in your right hand, which totally does not sound right. So once you get the sheet music, you really need to go through and make sure it's actually correct, listening to the song, playing along with it, figuring out parts. But it gets you there 90%, which is just an easier way to start things. All right, so once I've figured that out, then what I do is I set up a kick drum. I have it play on every downbeat. And then once I do that, I bring up the song on Spotify and I try and line up the kick drum on the downbeat with the tempo of the actual song so I can figure out the tempo. And then through a ton of trial and error, I'll eventually find the tempo, which in our case is actually 118 beats per minute. After I've got all that done, what I do is I run the kick drum for about 4.5 minutes through my Logic session, and then I sit down at the keyboard and I just play a synth pad and I play just the basic chords throughout the song and I make myself a little map. Then once I've done that, I can label each section and make myself a more specific, detailed map. And then once I do that, I go through each section and I adjust the tempo. So all the choruses in this song will be 118 beats per minute. So the verses I brought down to 116 beats per minute. And then when it hits the pre-chorus, it's 117. And then we hit that chorus, it's 118. And usually for the bridge, you're either slowing down the tempo or you're speeding up, so you have to figure out what that is. I think I actually slowed it down for this song. Once all that is done, then you have a nice big fat map of where everything's going to eventually go, where the chords are going to be, and what you need to be doing. Then you are ready for day 2. So here we are at day 2. We've figured out our tempo, made a little map of what the song is, where the chords are, where the sections are. So day 2 is all about starting to learn the vocal melody. We've downloaded the sheet music, sort of checked it to make sure it's correct with the actual recording. It's the little notes in between. It's not the big fat note that everybody can hit that is wrong. It's all the little notes in between that are, is it 2 notes on this one and then you move to the next one, or do you move right to the next one? It's those little things, those little subtleties that sort of make the song, and a lot of people miss. So you really have to dig in, make sure you're actually singing the right notes. Now, the most important thing in this whole thing is learning the melody, but also learning the words. There is nothing worse. My biggest pet peeve is when people post a video on Facebook, or they're at an open mic or something like that, and they've got their phone in their face and they're reading the words to the song as they sing. The whole goal of a singer is to communicate. So everything you do in preparation is just to help you communicate emotion to people. Learning the words, learning the melody, having vocal technique, being able to sing, having a good vibrato, whatever else that is involved with singing is only there for communication. So you can imagine, try leaning over to your significant other sometime this week and reading, "Honey, I love you so much." See how that works for you. You got to learn the words. So that's what we're after for the next 3 weeks. So every morning I'll do my 2 hours of guitar and then an hour of singing. And then I will sing this song 5 or 6 times, trying to learn the words, trying to get the right melody. I sing along to this song that I've already made so far. I also sing it a cappella. I sing it with a piano. I'm trying to get all the intervals correct. You're also trying to find your way when you're practicing singing a song, where you can sort of open up with vowels and open up your throat and really feel where you're supposed to be while you're singing this. Even if you're a good singer, you still got to find your way with the song. So that's what we start today. So we're at day 3 and 4. Once I get the song mapped out and I get the tempo down, I start learning the vocals, then I can basically do whatever I want. So today we're going to start with guitars. I'm going to sit down and learn all of the guitar parts. And then tomorrow I'm going to learn all of the guitar solo, and there's also a guitar solo in the last chorus of the song. As I'm learning the guitar part to this, I'm noticing when you get to the guitar solo section, there's this super loud funk guitar played over the guitar solo, almost right in its way, that I've never heard before. It's something that you always feel when you get to the guitar solo, but you're noticing the guitar solo and not whatever else is going on around it. And this thing is very strange. It's super loud and right on top of it, but it's pretty cool. Today was all about learning the guitar solo. All my life, I always thought it was 3 guitars playing in harmony. Come to find out that it's actually just 2 guitars, 1 in each speaker, both playing the same thing. But I think I've figured it all out, and I think I've found all the little hidden guitar parts through the whole song. It really helps to just put some headphones on, close your eyes, and just listen for everything that you possibly can, to really just sort of decipher everything that's hidden in the mix that most people don't normally hear. So now that all that's done, we're moving on to day 5 and 6. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Click like and subscribe. Please don't. I detest YouTube. Anyways, we are on to drums and drum fills. Today we'll be spending the day learning the drum beat, which is relatively easy. And then tomorrow we will be learning the drum fills. which I think the drum fill is something like. Anywho, so normally you would think when you learn drum parts you would be sitting in this position. Nope. In fact, you are sitting here. It's actually done here with headphones and the original song and transcribing note for note. There's too much going on in a mix to really hear all the little details. So it helps to just put some headphones on and just start transcribing. In this case, the snare drum's always on 2 and 4. The hi-hats only play in the choruses and they play 8 notes. It's a pretty basic thing to remember. The kick drum is all over the place. It's relatively the same in all the sections, but as the choruses go on, the drummer just kind of lets loose and just plays off the top of his head. And as I'm doing this project, I want to really be a stickler for exactly how the radio sounds. Which means transcribing the kick drum note for note, measure by measure. And then when I'm done writing all of this out, then I sit and listen to the original and I just go through it measure by measure and make sure everything is exactly where it needs to be. Lucky for me, I can actually remember what I'm doing once I write it down. I don't need to actually look at this while I play the drum part on that Sunday. And it's pretty busy and it's pretty all over the place, but I should be able to nail it. In case you're wondering, this is what I usually look like when I'm doing this. Bass, how low can you go? This song is actually relatively simple in terms of parts, so I don't have to transcribe anything. Just have to sit down and listen to the original recording and use my ears. A lot of times these songs have 3 or 4 different bass parts. There's usually a regular bass part, but for instance, the Glass Tiger song had a slap bass, there was a synthesizer bass, there's a piano bass, super low on the keyboard, and then a regular bass. So there's usually a lot more going on than you think. Sound-wise, I always use the same setup. It's always a 1970s overcompressed jazz bass, high up on the neck, doubling vocal melodies, very Elton John, Rocket Man, but that's me. And there's always lots of bass slides. Total dork. But as much as I want to get it exactly like the record, I have to put some of myself in there too. So from here we're moving on to piano. Alright, so here we are, day 8. I'm starting to lose count. Today I learned the piano part, which pretty much I just use the sheet music for. It's relatively easy. Something to note that a keyboard like this has no sounds in it. So all of the sounds actually come from software instruments inside my computer. So this keyboard will never make sounds on its own. It's just a shell, it's just keys. And what happens is when you record something like this, you are actually recording MIDI notes, which means the computer is actually recording what note you hit, when you hit it, how hard you hit it, and then from there you take that performance that's recorded and you go and you find some sounds to put with it. And then it actually plays it back for you, essentially. So what that means is that I can record this piano part and then I can go find whatever sounds I want, and as I'm mixing the song, if I don't like the piano sound I'm using, I just change the sound to fit that fits the song better, which is amazing. It's the same thing for the drums. There's no sounds in those drums. All they do is record what you hit, how hard you hit it, and when you hit it. It's pretty awesome, actually. I would much rather do this any day than traditional recording. This is so much easier. End of the chorus of this song, it actually goes to an E minor 7, to an F sharp minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, and then to a G in the right hand and a C in the bass. Very strange. And I'm gonna have to sing background vocal oohs to those chords. Right before the guitar solo, there's a synthesizer section. And it uses an old school analog synthesizer sound. The kind of synthesizers back in the day where you actually had to plug in cables and connect cords and build a sound from scratch. This is a modern synthesizer with lots of preset sounds that you can control and program, but it was kind of fun to use something old, analog. Obviously I used the software version of that, but to use something old and analog for that was really fun. Days 10, 11, 12, and 13 were spent searching for hidden parts in the mix. A song on the radio is really a collage of sound of many little hidden things that sort of come together, so it's something that you feel as opposed to hear. So there were a few hidden gems in this song that I had to go find. One of those things was at the end of the bridge in the song, there was a woodblock sound that was hit once. I think it was a mistake. I think the drummer hit it by accident. But as I had my headphones on and I'm listening intently, suddenly on this one beat at the end of the bridge, there was a woodblock. So I recreated it. Even if it's a mistake, I'm still going to do it. As I listened to the second verse, there was some tinkling piano that was sort of, I think, improvised that I've never really noticed before, but that was there. So there are a few things that were hidden that I had to sort of flush out. There's some cymbal swells in the bridge and stuff like that. And this is how my recording day starts. Nice cup of coffee. Then I go right into my interview, which I put at the end of every video. This is the only time of day I'm going to be this lucid, even at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. First shot of the day is always the lead vocal. As long as you have that, you have your video. The last shot of the day is always drums. Drums are a very physical instrument, and by the time you're done drumming, you're toast. Sometimes I don't even clean up after I'm done. Quick video photography tip. I always shoot faces at least with an 85 millimeter lens. If you go to have your portrait done, it's often done with a 135 millimeter lens. Do not use wide angle lenses. Wide angles distort pictures, they distort faces. So I actually use a 200 millimeter lens. I put it all the way back in the kitchen and I shoot all the way down the hallway right onto my microphone and my face. And usually that's probably somewhere around 85 to 100 millimeters, which makes faces look much better. Also, when you shoot with 85 to 135 millimeters, changes the compression of the background. So the background actually looks bigger and becomes bigger, as opposed to getting up closer with a wide angle lens. The background looks further away and it's less prominent in the back of you and it's less prominent in the picture. So I always love the added compression and the way a face looks at 85 millimeters. After that, we're on to just random instruments, and then I'll end today with drums.
Look at what's happened to me. I can't believe it myself. Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. It should have been somebody else. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. Just like the light of a new day, hit me from out of the blue. breaking me out of the spell I was in, making all of my wishes come true. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. This is too good to be true. Look at me, falling for you. Believe it or not, believe it or not, believe it or not, believe it or not. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me.
All right, so here we are the day after the recording. It's Monday. The Monday after is always a bit of what I imagine a hangover to be like. It's completely exhausting. Recording all the parts, singing all the parts, filming all the parts, playing all the parts. 2 hours is exhausting. 5 or 6 hours is even more exhausting. So here we are, and the next step is to mix the song. I now have 75 tracks. That's 75 individual recordings all piled on top of each other. Drums, bass, guitars, vocals, keyboards, all the little hidden parts. Now we have to take those 75 things and make them into just one stereo track. It's basically 2 tracks, a left and a right. So that I can put it in the video and put the video clips on top of that, and then we can bounce that down and put it on YouTube. Whenever I'm mixing, basically what you do is you go in and you take each individual track and you add things to it. You add compression and equalization, any kind of tape saturation, phasers, flangers, choruses, all kinds of different things to make that individual sound how you want it. But then once you do all those things, then you've got to make all 75 parts fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. It's all got to be equal and fit together perfectly. For me, what that really means is subtraction. For me, the key to mixing is subtraction. So when you have a vocal part, in terms of equalization, it sounds great on its own, but once you add in 74 other parts, there are parts of the vocal that you can take out in terms of equalization that don't need to be there for you to still hear it and for it to still sound good, which is basically anything under 106 hertz, anything at 500 hertz, anything actually at 70 hertz is just garbage. So you take those things away. So as you go through this thing, you have the bass guitar and the kick drum for the drums are going to share the same frequencies a lot of the time. So you have to decide who's going to get which frequencies. You're going to take out some on one thing and take out different ones on another thing so that those two things can fit together. And that's what you're doing 75 times. For me, I'm just kind of naturally good at it. I've also been doing it since 1985, so once I actually got my studio together in 2010 and was able to do this every day, that's where I really started getting really good at it. And it's actually, for me, it's the most fun part of music. I love to sit down with a bunch of tracks and turn it into something special. So once I get this done, then tomorrow we will do the editing. Here we are on our final day. We mixed all the audio yesterday. Now it's about putting all of the video clips that I filmed on top of that audio and making a music video out of it. A couple of things that I do when I edit music videos. This is actually 426 for me. When I do this, I take it nice and slow. There are things in this software that make things faster. You can put up 6 different clips and watch them all at the same time and then pick out of each one what you want to use. I don't do anything like that. Slow and steady wins the race. That's not how you win awards and make people happy. I put up 1 clip at a time on top of the music. I go through the entire clip and I pick out all the parts that are perfect. And then once that clip is done, I add another clip on top of it. And then I add another clip on top of it until there's about 20 clips all stacked on top of each other. And then I go through the video and I pick out, all right, for this first verse, I really need the lead vocal here. And then I'm going to cut to the drums for the drum fill. And then I'm going to go to the guitar for the guitar part and sort of make a video from there. At least in this situation where I'm not filming some abstract video outside for a band or something. This is pretty much all the same thing every month in the same room with the same setup because it's a very small room. And then I just go nice and slow until 2 or 3 hours later I have a video. Some of the things I do on every video is I always try and have a little thing towards the end that tells you what number it peaked at on the top 40 and when and stuff like that. And I usually transition from the intro of the song into the first verse with what's called a wipe. Some call it a gradient wipe, some call it a linear wipe. A wipe is a transition that goes across the screen that goes all the way back to the 1930s. For me, it's a tip of the hat to the Star Wars movies. When they go from one scene to the other, there's usually a wipe across the screen. And they were actually tipping their hat to all those great movies from the 1930s and 40s that did the same thing. So I put that in every video. It's just one of those little things that usually only I know about. Once we get this all edited together, then we are going to upload it to YouTube, and hopefully you will be watching it this Sunday. So I want to say a couple things about this song. This is a bucket list song for me. When I was 12 years old, sitting beside my television with a tape recorder, and I would tape record the theme song every week so that I could listen back to it. That was a big deal when you were 12. I have this show on DVD, and occasionally on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, if everyone's out of the house or whatever, I'll put it on for those crappy weeks where you just want to feel like you're 12 again. I adored this show. It was about a guy, Ralph Hinckley, that was a high school teacher that met up with an FBI agent by accident in the desert, and aliens came along and gave them a suit, like a Superman suit. And they were supposed to work together. Ralph was supposed to wear the suit, and Bill was the FBI guy that they would go solve crimes and help the world and whatever. And they lost the instructions, which is kind of like a one joke thing, but it was a cute show anyways. The leads, William Katt was Ralph. His parents were Hollywood actors from the 1940s. His mom was Della Street on the original Perry Mason. Robert Culp was an old Hollywood guy. He was in I Spy with Bill Cosby in the 60s. But he was also in one of my favorite movies, Sunday in New York with Jane Fonda. Connie Selico was married to Gil Gerard at the time, who was Buck Rogers on TV. And she would go on to marry John Tesh and was in the TV show Hotel. But this strength of the show was sort of its innocence and the chemistry between the three actors, and they were born to play those parts. Michael Pare was also on this show as one of the students. He was Eddie in Eddie and the Cruisers. And I just love the show, and I've never met anyone that didn't love this song. My kids are singing it all the time now. They love it. So it was really a joy to sort of add this to my Sunday jam. All right, so what's next? Next month is a tribute to 2 of my high school friends. I have this memory of the 3 of us getting in a car and driving to Scituate. It wasn't summer, it was off season, so I'm thinking it was like in March, so it was like 50 degrees, and we went to the beach, and it was sort of like, it wasn't exactly Ferris Bueller, but I always think in those kind of terms. There was just three high school friends hanging out and going to the beach and enjoying being young. These two friends of mine really, at the time, turned me on to alternative music because I was all about the top 40 my entire life. And they showed me The Cure and the Smiths and all of these other things. So I couldn't actually pick one song from the band that I'm going to do next month. I'm actually going to do 4 songs and sort of just do a little bit of each one. And singing an a cappella first line of the 5th song. So it's another kind of project for me. This was a lot of work, the behind the scenes this month. It's going to be a little bit of work, but it's going to be worth it. Now, one of my favorite bands from the 80s and defined the sound of the 80s for me with many other things. So I'm looking forward to that, and thank you for hanging in with me with this whole crazy video. I hope it showed you a little bit of what I do every month. I love doing this. I love being back in the 80s, at least for that one day a month, or the time that I work on this project. And I'll see y'all next month. Thank you.